Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is when which you're watching this. Pastor Jordan and it's good to see you today. This is the second Sunday of Advent already.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe we've already had the first, and here we're working into the second Sunday. Are you ready for Advent?
I don't know if I'm ready yet,
Okay,
but here we are.
Still got work to do, some cleanup to do.
So much cleaning.
It's so much cleanup, yeah. This weekend for Advent, we meet John the Baptist. And John the Baptist comes into Advent each and every year. And we're blessed by the presence of John the Baptist. He's an interesting figure in the Gospels. They each deal with John the Baptist in their own little ways. But the interesting thing about John the Baptist is that he calls us to participate in our own redemption. John the Baptist, especially in Mark, he just bursts into the scene and he starts running up and down the shoreline, yelling at us and shouting at us. But he asks us to jump into the river with him. I find that interesting. The other prophets, as we get into the Jordan River, when the Israelites first came to the Jordan, they parted the Jordan so they could cross on dry land. When Elisha and Elijah came to the Jordan River, they crossed on dry land. But for John the Baptist, he's not splitting the river in two. He's not asking you to keep your feet dry. He's asking you to get your feet wet. Right? So he has this time with God's people right in the water, getting wet, and not just their feet, but all the way from the top of their heads. And then he also tells us, right, to prepare the way of the Lord, to make straight the way through the desert. He's not telling us that God's going to make those curves straight. He's not telling us that God's filling in the valleys and taking out the hills, but he's telling us that we have a job to do. That we need to work on straightening our own curves, filling in our own valleys, of cutting down our own hills, whether that's personally or collectively as a community.
But it also doesn't mean we're doing it alone.
No.
We're doing it with God with us. And also, like, if we're doing it collectively, we're all doing it together, you know? Like, if you're going through a dark valley, I'm like, hey, Erling, how can I support you? How can I be with you?
Exactly right. We don't get our feet wet by ourselves. Right? So we're all in this together. But it's Advent is that time that we're figuring out what curves in our lives do we need to straighten out a little bit. What valleys and hills do we need to work on in our own lives, so we can make straight that path. So when Christ comes, that we're ready and prepared. It's good to see you. Peace.